Well, shalom, everybody. Ariel Bar Tzadok here from the KosherTorah School, found online. Where else? KosherTorah.com. Well, it is the 13th of January, 2020. And in this time slot, I normally hold my classes in my books, Walking in the Fire and Protection from Evil. And we are going to continue those classes, but I've been noticing, like they say, a disturbance in the force, using Star Wars terms. There seems to be a lot of confusion. I don't know what else to call it. With regards to the relationship of the religion of Judaism and its learnings, its teachings, and its observances with regards to a non-Jewish audience. And when you're looking at this relationship, you have to understand the wholeness of it before you can come to a conclusion, of which I'm going to do right here in this class with you guys now. To start off, let me give you a little bit of history. Now, for those of you who follow me on Facebook and YouTube, I recently did a short little 10-minute class called Judaism for Gentiles. Well, this lesson is Judaism for Gentiles, our responsibilities and obligations. I'm going to pick up where we left off in that class. Of course, I'm going to have to review a little bit of it. And in consultations with dear friends of mine, I think that we're going to begin a new class on Wednesday evenings in the 8 o'clock Eastern time, Eastern time zone time slot, specifically on this topic, Judaism for Gentiles. Because we really got to clear the air. There is so much confusion. We throw around words like akum, which means avodat kochavim umazalot, servants of the stars and planets, which, if you will, is, the Talmudic term for an idolater. And then, of course, we have Noahide, which is the standard term for pretty much everybody. And then, of course, we have the term called a Ger Toshav, which some will refer to as either a righteous Gentile or a resident alien, as the Bible would refer to it. And all of these have different relationships and different understandings in relationship to Jewish law, Jewish practices, and interactions. But before we can even address these things, we got to address some real serious stuff. And that is the sources of our information. First, I have to begin with a very controversial teaching, which is going to contradict many of my peers, many of the great holy rabbis of the last 1,000 years, pretty much. And I have to say right from the beginning, and I know a lot of you are not going to like this, but hey, no one's ever accused me of being politically correct. So I'm true to form. There is, hear me now, get upset if you want, there is, in reality, no such thing as a Jewish soul. I know a lot of people think that there is. Is being Jewish something special? Yes, but of course. Is being Jewish something unique? Yeah, of course it is. Is being Jewish something different and separate from otherwise? Yes, of course. All of that is true. And at the same time, there is no such thing as a Jewish soul. With that being said, we could look back into the Bible. Where does it say in Genesis 1:27 that God created Jewish souls and non-Jewish souls? Created all souls, all men, right? Created in God's image. Throughout all Jewish biblical interactions, southern tribe of Judah, northern tribe of Israel, there were always positive interactions. There was always, working together of all peoples and the like. And yes, of course, the Bible makes it very clear. Israel is chosen by God. They are to be a mamlechet kohanim v'goy kadosh. All right? They are to be a nation of priests and a holy people. Now, let's explain what all that means. How do you get to be a nation of priests? What kind of priests is Israel? Well, what kind of priesthoods are there? Well, according to the Bible, there are only two types of priesthoods that we know of. The priesthood of Bnei Aharon, priesthood of Aaron, and of course the priesthood of Melchizedek. Now, let's stay out of the Christian traditions which spiraled off into the whole thing of Melchizedekian priesthood, especially let's stay out of the LDS, the Mormon teachings on that. Let's stay true to biblical teachings. According to our understanding, Melchizedek, the man, was none other than Shem, the son of Noah. And we know from the book of Genesis that Melchizedek meets Abraham Avinu. Abraham Avinu gives him, an offering and the like. According to our oral traditions, it was at this time that Shem, ben Noah, ordained Abraham and passed on the priesthood to him. What was that priesthood all about? It was a priesthood of channeling, if you will, what we later came to call the Torah, the way of God, to teach to be what Isaiah later called a light to the nations. Remember what a priest is. A priest is not someone who sits on a throne and you bow down and kiss his feet. A priest is someone who's down on his hands and knees and is in service. A priest is a servant, and that is how you have to understand the nature of what a priesthood, what a Melchizedek is. Abraham became the servant of God. This is what was so important, that he passed on to Isaac and not to Ishmael. This was what was so important, that Isaac passed on to Jacob through the blessing and not to Esau. Jacob never chose between his children, and his entire family therefore continued the Melchizedekian line. Now, with that being said, the entire Bnei Yisrael were chosen way back in the day of Abraham. If you remember the covenant Bein HaBetarim, the covenant between the pieces, God said, this is a group of souls, and I'm going to hone them, and I'm going to train them, and I'm going to use them to be my body through which the light of God will shine to the world. Now, remember who that promise was made to. It was made to Yisrael. Israel is 12 tribes. How many tribes do we have today? One, maybe two. Yehuda and Levi. What happened to Reuben and Shimon and Gad and Asher and Naphtali and Dan and all the rest? Their descendants, they're still out there somewhere. And guess what? Even though we say that they are assimilated and lost to us, they are not assimilated and lost to God. God, it's a Bible prophecy and all that, says that he stays faithful to the house of Israel. All 12 tribes. So somehow, some way, somewhere out there, whether they be Reubenites or Gadites or Danites or Menashites, whoever they are, wherever they are, God is still working through them to be a light to the nations. What do you know about that? Not just Judah. So, when you want to talk about a Jewish soul, you better use the correct term and refer to a Israelite soul. Who has an Israelite soul? All 12 tribes. Where are those other 11 or 10 tribes, if you will? Your guess is as good as mine. But a Benjaminite today, a Gadite today, an Asherite today, a Naphtaliite today, a Danite, whoever, you go through all 12. They still have an, in quote, Israelite soul. And you and I have no idea who they are, where they are, what they are. In my personal opinion, I believe that any and all enlightened souls, regardless of wherever they have been in places, in time, history, wherever, whatever culture, whatever religion, if we could trace them back, bloodline-wise, I think possibly they would all go back to Sinai. How many of you have ever read the wisdom of someone like Lao Tzu out of China, Shuangzi, the philosophical foundation of Taoism, without all the mystical mumbo-jumbo idolatrous stuff? It's pretty profound stuff. How many of you ever read Patanjali Sutras out of India? Pretty deep stuff. I sit and I read this stuff and I look not at the outside form in which it is encased, but rather at what's inside it. I follow the wise advice of Rabbi Meir, as we refer to in Pirkei Avot. I don't look at the outside bottle, I look at what's inside. And that way, when I come to study wisdoms of foreign sources, whether it be the Tao Te Ching, whether it be the Patanjali Sutras, whether it be some of the teachings of Native Americans, Aborigine cultures, and the like, these guys got some wisdom there. And I kind of always wondered, gee, where did that wisdom come from? I believe deep down within, somehow, in some way, somewhere, lost to history, there's a connection to Sinai. And I do not expect the masters of Shaolin or Wudan or the Native American chiefs and the like who embrace that wisdom, who have that from their own culture, would say, yes, we're all Jewish. Now, I know they're not going to say that. But that's irrelevant. Because, for the record, you do know that there is a significant historical, archaeological, validated archaeological evidence of an ancient Israelite presence here in North and even Central America. Oh, you go Google that stuff. Talk about the lost tribes of Israel. We've had a Jewish community in China, in India, in places in the deepest, darkest Africa. I forget the name of the African tribe that they did a DNA study, and it turns out that they have the gene of the Bnei Aharon. They're Aaronic priests, son of a gun. Anyway, let's get back to the Melchizedekian stuff. To shine the light of Torah. What is the Torah? The way and word of God. Israel was chosen to be that priesthood. And amongst them is the priesthood of the priesthood, which is the Aaronic priesthood, which is the higher level. Yes, in the LDS Church of the Mormons, they have it reversed. But again, we're not going to discuss Mormons, just marking for the record. But with that being said, what was Israel chosen for? Well, Israel's obviously better than everyone else, right? Wrong. Israel's obviously closer to God than everyone else, right? Wrong. Israel is, I don't know, don't we own all the banks? Aren't we like the wealthiest people? We control all the media and all this? Gee, that conspiracy theory has always angered me personally. Because if I am supposedly a member of this group of people who are in control of all the money, where's my portion? How come... I'm running a shiva here. How come I'm always behind every month? How come it's a hard time paying the rent and paying the car and all the insurance things and everything else? How come you got to struggle financially? I'm part of this great conspiracy. How come I don't own a bank or two? Very frustrated. Somebody left me out of the conspiracy. I feel so disappointed. This is the nonsense, though. Okay? Understand, biblically speaking, Israel, all 12 tribes, were chosen to be the servants of God's light. And though bloodlines can be lost, in my opinion, spirit lines can never be lost. God knows. And somehow, somewhere, that wisdom, which in our Torah tradition we call Torah, we see echoes of it in all the different wisdoms around the world. And that is what we call in our Torah tradition the exile of the Torah, or the essence of the Torah in a vessel, which is not Hebraic, if you will. So with that being the case, please understand the nature of Torah. Notice I did not use the word Judaism. Now, we all know biblical history. Well, there was northern tribes of Israel, the southern tribe of Judah, ultimately, in the end, because they did not stay faithful to Torah, did not calibrate the proper natural energies, they created unnatural imbalances in their environment, which led in corruption into the economic, social, eventually political spheres of life, which caused their own political calamities, the destruction of them as civilizations. Okay, but God's plan is not thwarted. 10 lost tribes, they're gone. Where are they? I guess when Mashiach comes, we'll find out who is a Gadite, who is a Reubenite, and the rest. But when we look out in the world today, and we see the wisdom coming from all those sources, you got to stroke that beard if you have one. Sorry, ladies. Proverbial beard. And you go, curious. Now, Second Temple time comes around. And during this period, there's already animosity between Jews and their neighbors. We read about this in the book of Esther. Remember the whole story of Haman? You got this weird people. Because the way that Israel, Judah, I should say, maintained its identity was to create a wall of social separation between itself and others by having its own laws, staying faithful to its own culture. Now, take a look at people like Mordechai. Forget Esther, who's already in the palace of the king. But Mordechai was known to be a Jew. Where was he? He wasn't living in the ghetto separate. He was there in the king's palace. He was active. He was involved. And later, when Queen Esther reveals herself and Haman is dispatched, Mordechai becomes the prime minister. There's no anti-Semitism there. How do you think Mordechai dressed? You think he dressed like he was from the shtetl in Poland? Thousands of years before there was a Poland? No. He dressed like a Persian nobleman in the same way like Joseph in Egypt dressed like an Egyptian. Normal, not assimilation. Normal. Jews in Israel interacted with their neighbors. It wasn't a state of hostility. It wasn't a state of arrogant elitism. It was a statement of survival. And the proof of its wisdom is self-evident, that those of us who have embraced this path are still here to this day, 2,500 years later. When was the last time you met an ancient Persian? Not that many around anymore. How about ancient Sumerians, Assyrians, or anything? They're all come and gone. But we're still here. But what happened in the days of the Second Temple is very important. We know that prophecy came to an end. No, not Ruach HaKodesh, divine inspiration, not the psychic ascent through the Merkavah and Hechelo traditions, which we still observe to this day. And of course, as you know, I teach here at the KosherTorah School. Those traditions are still with us. But no one anymore is saying, "Thus saith the Lord." Nowhere. That's out of our traditions. In order to safeguard our identity and to stay faithful to the Word of God, there arose among us a group of men, believe it or not, even some women, who got involved with understanding and studying the Torah and sought to create for us that cohesive vessel in which our light can be contained. And these teachers became known to us as our rabbis. And they created for us the form of Judaism, the expression of Torah that we have today, called rabbinic Judaism. They became the inheritors of the Melchizedekian priesthood, to shine the light of God, like it says in Isaiah, to be a light to the nations. And during the time of the Second Temple, starting with Alexander the Great himself, you always had enlightened members of the nations who flocked to Israel for its wisdom. Aristotle himself had interactions with rabbis, Shimon Tzadok amongst them. You had some of the great teachers of old Greece, whether it was Pythagoras or Plato, interacted with our sages. That's recorded in Greek history, not just our own. So there's always this overlap, always this appreciation of wisdom. Yes, during the time of what we call the Hasmonean Wars, you had those who, in Israel, Jews, lost respect for their own culture, lost respect for their own identity, and sought to blot it out from Israel. Self-hating Jews. That scourge has not left us to this very day. If you look at what the anti-Semites of today say, they point a finger at these so-and-so people out there, many of whom are born Jewish, but are the farthest thing away from anything Torah or holy or God. And they blame us, Torah faithful people, for them. Please, don't blame us for the likes of a Karl Marx. He had nothing to do with us. We have nothing to do with him. There are others today who are alive, I'm not even going to mention their names, who lead agendas which are completely contradictory to everything that's holy. Please, just because they were born Jews, don't consider them Jewish. Don't consider them representing Judaism or anything. They're the enemies of Judaism. And you've always found that those who were born Jewish but turned against Judaism, such as Thomas Torquemada, who founded the Spanish Inquisition. I mentioned that in our little class before, and you have others all throughout history. These are bad guys. Bad guys. They turned against everything. Please don't associate them with us. Judaism of the rabbis was a wisdom so deep and so profound in the days of the Roman Empire that I remember reading somewhere in some statistic like almost a quarter of the empire was like really interested in Torah and Judaism. This became a threat to the Roman Empire. Just like today, if you look at modern spirituality of today, people look towards the Eastern Oriental mysticism and spirituality. Well, in the days of the Romans, that was how Torah was looked. The rabbis were the hip-hop, in quote, New Age gurus of the day. Our sages, amongst other things, were masters of astrology. That's written in the Gemara, Masechet Shabbat, Daf Amud Hey. Yes, our sages knew all these things, and the people of the world were in awe of them, respected them, and honored them. And you always had those who said, don't listen to them, blah, 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 this and that. You always have detractors. Along comes Christianity, Yeshu. We've discussed the historical Yeshu in numerous other forms. Don't need to get into it here. But let me just tell you one thing. Yeshu most certainly did not start a new religion, didn't abrogate the Torah, or anything of the kind. And most of his teachings that come from his own mouth, not Paul, but Yeshu. Go look at my teaching, my entire course. It's on my website, and I'm putting lessons up on YouTube as well, called An Orthodox Rabbi Reads the Christian Bible. Most Christians today are completely so ignorant, uneducated in Judaism, that they think that the wise wisdom and words of Yeshu came from him. They don't realize that Yeshu is often quoting Pirkei Avot, many of the Tanaim, and other rabbinic teachings of his day. Indeed, so is Paul, but that's for another time. I taught the class on An Orthodox Rabbi Reads Matthew specifically to show what those teachings are. Now, as Christianity developed, remember how Christianity developed. It developed during a time when Judaism as a religion and Jews as a people fell into serious disrepute because of the war with Rome. And that is what led to the complete divorce of the two cultures. Christianity, in order to survive, could not allow itself to be identified with a founder who was executed by the Roman government, allegedly, for the crime of being a terrorist, sedition. Can you imagine today if we had our religion growing up around Osama bin Laden, and we call it the religion of peace? Oh yeah, that one's going to go far, because our memories today know better. Well, in those days, they knew better too. So that's why Christianity, in its birthing and in its growth, had to change itself, completely divorce itself from Judaism. And that's why if you look at many of the founding fathers of Christianity, they had the most virulent, nasty, vicious, racist things to say about Jews and Judaism. How do you think the Jews and the rabbis responded? Sorry, they didn't turn the other cheek. That's not our Torah way. You remember what it says in the Bible? An eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. So the rabbis, in response to the polemics against them, created their own polemics against their opponents. Well, what do you know? Tit for tat, eye for eye, tooth for tooth. For example, when we read in the Talmud, which is, remember, not a Jewish New Testament. It's not the word of God. Nowhere in the Talmud does it say, these are the words of the Lord. On the contrary, it says with pride, these are the words of men. Many men. The Talmud is an encyclopedia of knowledge, and it includes all kinds of things. Good things, bad things, right things, wrong things, agreed things, disagreed things, and the like. And have you ever read an encyclopedia? On my day, we had like the World Book Encyclopedia, Encyclopedia Britannica. Did you know that in those encyclopedias, you have like articles on the devil, demonology, evil. So the whole encyclopedia is evil and demonic, right? Of course not. Who thinks like that? So if you see individual opinions of rabbis in the Talmud, and we find them disagreeable, why do you throw out this? They say the baby with the bathwater. Acknowledge and recognize that you're dealing with the opinions of individuals. Individuals who express their opinions based upon their milieu, their time, their place, and what's happening with them. So, you're going to find many a rabbi who had, shall we say, bad experiences with people around them. And they responded accordingly. Just like you're going to find, whether it be Persians or Babylonians or Greeks or Romans, said, well, we don't like the Jews. You're going to find this or that rabbi who's going to say, we don't like the Greek or the Roman or the Babylonian or the Assyrian, whatever. Why should this surprise you? Out of this, complementing the concept of maintaining the Jewish identity, our sages said, interpreting scripture, this is the way for the Jewish people. Our Torah of rabbinic Judaism is for Jews. What about non-Jews? Well, during the time of exile, unlike what was going on in the days of the Roman Empire and what we have returned to today, Judaism was in the defensive mode. It wasn't on the offense. That was Christianity. That was Islam later. We had to play the defense. And therefore, we withdrew into ourselves and communities and didn't concern ourselves with being a light to the nations. We just wanted to be a light unto ourselves. And the proof of the wisdom is here we are again 2,000 years later, surviving that fact. So all during this period, you've always had individual non-Jews, whether they be whatever nation they were, who did come to Torah sources, did interact with rabbis, and greatly appreciated that wisdom. How many of you have ever heard of the famous stories in the Gemara that Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi, Rabbi Yehuda the Prince, the author of the Mishnah, was a close associate, a brother, with the Roman Emperor Antoninus. Who was he? You can go check out the sources. It was Marcus Aurelius. Marcus Aurelius, if I'm not mistaken, was a governor in Judea before he became the emperor in Rome. Did you ever read Marcus Aurelius's? His wisdom? It's readily available. Go on Amazon. You'll sit there and again, you'll stroke your proverbial beard and say, geez, some of this sounds familiar. You see the wisdom of a Rebbe in his philosophy there. And that's important for us to understand. Because the likes of Antoninus, Marcus Aurelius, had no anti-Semitism. Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi was a light to the nations. One of the last times. But all throughout history, you always had individuals. Do you think that in spite of the animosity that the Christian church, the Catholic Church, had towards Jews and Judaism, that they never spoke with rabbis? Ha! On one hand, they might be killing Jews, but on the other hand, not only are they talking to rabbis, they're studying Jewish teachings. St. Thomas Aquinas and what's his name? I forgot his teacher. You don't think they studied Maimonides and his Mishnah and the Moreh Nebuchim, the guide to the perplexed? Certainly did. How about the Kabbalah? Once the Kabbalah became known in Europe, all of these European heads ran after rabbis, begged them for translations so that they could embrace this wisdom. In spite of all the external animosity, internal and within, there was always connections. Even in Islam, you have the Sufi movement. Sufism and what we know as prophetic Kabbalah, there is such similarities between the two that sometimes the line between them is very blurry. You can't tell all the time. Even Rabbi Avraham, the son of Rambam, noticed this in his book, Amaspik Lo De Hashem. Somebody's saying here, my volume needs to be louder. Sorry, it's as loud as it gets. All right, I'm on my cell phone. It's all I can do. So best of luck. But anyway, getting back to our little history here by being a light to the nations. All throughout history, we've always had individuals who came to Judaism and individuals who, for whatever reasons, left Judaism. During the days of the Spanish Inquisition, good old King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella, don't get me started, they made the rule. You want to stay in Spain, you got to become Catholic. You don't think a lot of Jews became Catholics? They're the foundations of the Marranos. Some of them were sincere. They didn't give a darn about their religion, and they left. And you want to know something? Throughout the ages, you've always had people who became Jewish and observed Torah mitzvot through a bet din and a halacha conversion and the like. But all during this time, we were still playing defense. Now, that which we call the universal code, or the Sheva Mitzvot B'nai Noach, what we say is this. You always have. The rabbis say, well, where do non-Jews fit into the greater spiritual scheme of things? In Judaism, unlike Christianity, we don't have a concept called salvation. You are not sinful and therefore disconnected from God, and therefore need a blood sacrifice to atone for you, or otherwise you're completely disconnected and you go to hell for eternity. That's a lovely Christian teaching, but has absolutely no source, no foundation, no reality in Torah Judaism. Sorry, nothing to be saved from. That's just the way it is. So with that being said, throughout the centuries, the rabbis say, okay, cool and groovy, what about the people of the nations? Well, we wrote about this. The rabbis in the Talmud say it, referencing Malachi, the first chapter. I think it's verse 11. From the rising of the sun to the going down thereof, great is God's name amongst the nations. And it is said that even if a non-Jew, Gentile, is observing an idolatrous practice and is doing so because in their heart they believe they're doing it to the creator of the universe, the God of God, Lord of Lords, God accepts it from them. Does not hold against them the mistakes of the intellect, but looks to the devotion in their hearts. In that respect, unlike many of my peers, I look towards members of all the religions today. I look at my brother and sister Christians. Yeah, I call them brother and sister, that's right. And they're going to be praying to Jesus and bowing down, saying Jesus is God, and they're bowing down again to the Virgin Mary and all that. And according to our Torah and traditions, that's clearly idolatry. Not up to them. I'm not going to fight and argue about it. Because I believe and I see in these people a sincerity and a devotion and love for God. And you want to know? I'm more concerned with action than I am with belief. And in that respect, they're going to believe whatever they're going to want to believe. I just care about what they do. Years and years and years ago, we first started our school. We called it by our Hebrew name, Yeshivat B'nai Nevi'im. We were very active in the anti-missionary movement. And I used to fight tooth and nail against some of these nasty missionaries, especially those who were Jewish converts. Some of our debates got rather heated because I exposed these guys to the anti-Semitism that they really have within them. I remember, how many of you might remember a Jewish guy who was on TV, a Jewish Christian named Zola Levitt, I think that was his name. And he used to complain, I once watched his show, that because he was Jewish, many of his his Gentile Christians wouldn't accept him, even though he himself was a Christian, because he was born a Jew. I once wanted to talk with him and ask him about that. So I called him up. I said, Rabbi Ariel Bar Tzadok, I'm an Orthodox rabbi, and I want to speak to Zola Levitt. He wouldn't come on the phone with me. And his associate said to me, he refuses to speak to a Jewish rabbi who isn't saved. Oh, that's nice, isn't it? Yeah, thank you very much, racist. Okay, but let's get back to business here. Over the years, things are changing. Look at where we are today. The old wisdom of Torah is out there, and everyone has the opportunity to see it. Righteous Gentiles, those who are decent, good, moral people from all over the world, God bless them. Salt of the earth, spiritual, our brothers and sisters. But what is their relationship to, not Torah so much? Torah, remember, is universal. Remember, it says in the Midrash, in the beginning, God gazed into the Torah, and from the Torah created the universe. So the Torah is to be found everywhere, anywhere, anything in the universe. So you don't need a book to know the Torah. The Torah is the natural way of life, the spiritual truths that you can find everywhere. In that respect, Torah is universal. But the religion of Judaism, which is the specific practices and observances of Torah for Jews, what about that? Well, over the years, like I said, the rabbis playing defense said, no, let's have this wall of separation between us and them so as to maintain our identity. That's all well and good. That's cool. It's proven its wisdom because here we are today. But now we are facing a challenge. We have, for the first time in a long time, access of our Jewish religion pretty much to everybody. We're in a new age today. All of our Jewish books now are translated into multiple languages. 100, 200, 300 years ago. How many people do you think could have studied Daf Yomi, the daily page of Talmud? Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Jefferson, founding fathers of the United States, they were clearly students of Kabbalah. Yes, they were. I did a whole essay about that. Go look on KosherTorah.com. Through the Masons. And the Masons had people who were translating stuff. And that was only for that little elite. And a lot of what started or became the secrets of the Masonic lodges, we Jews have always known this. It was a secret because Christians didn't know it. So they kept it secret amongst themselves, probably for the best, because they were embracing Jewish, not just Torah, but Jewish teachings that I'm sure the church would not have approved of. Remember, identity separations and the like. But today, everything is in translation. The Zohar is in 100 different languages, maybe. The writings of the Ariel, some of the deepest Kabbalistic texts, the likes of like the Shoresh Shemot of Rabbi Moshe Zechuta, the Brit Miluha, all of these really deep stuff, all available today. Go buy them on Amazon.com. Is that a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Let the scholars and everybody offer their opinion. The problem is, if it is a problem, is that it is a thing. It exists. The Torah of the Jews, Judaism, is out there. No one can deny it. So the old opinions that stated the Torah of Judaism is for Jews. That which is for the Noahides, their 7 mitzvot and everything related to it, that's for them, and this is for us. That is the prevalent opinion amongst many of my Haredi ultra-Orthodox peers. And they refuse to interact with those non-Jews who are so deeply attracted to our Torah that they're not willing to stop and listen to anybody. They're going to embrace it. So that's the reality. What do we do about it? Well, the old opinions that stated non-Jews shouldn't study the Torah, non-Jews shouldn't observe the halacha, all right? Non-Jews shouldn't study it, they shouldn't observe it. We've got to make this havdalah, this separation. Separation exists, whether we like it or not. No, we're not going to blur the line between who is a Jew and who isn't a Jew. That is defined very clearly by Jewish law, halacha. And yes, I do hold very strictly, very strongly, like my rabbinic peers. If one wishes to be accepted and embraced as a member of the Jewish community, one needs to be either born from a halachically kosher Jewish mother or go through a halachically, that means an Orthodox, a certified conversion through the many rabbinic organizations that we have here in the world, whether it be through the Bet Din in Israel, the Consistoire in France, or any of the appropriate Orthodox courts that we have here in the United States. So for someone who just says, I want to learn Judaism, put a yarmulke on my head and call myself a Jew, you can call yourself whatever you want. And if you want to think of yourself as a Jew, by all means, think of yourself whatever you want. I don't care. But if you want to be embraced and accepted within a Jewish community, credentials are required. You can go and drive a vehicle like a car and say, I don't need a driver's license to drive. What do I need that for? Right? I know how to drive. Well, if you get pulled over by a police officer and you tell them that story, right, you're still going to get a ticket if not arrested. If you want to be a participating member of the Jewish community, then you must be Jewish by Jewish Torah Orthodox standards. This is the disagreement we have with the conservative and reform movements, who have different understandings and opinions of what it is to be Jewish, and why, whether it be in Israel or any Orthodox community around the world, we do not recognize their converts. Their converts can be decent, moral, great human beings who I personally will embrace as a brother or a sister, but I cannot embrace them as being halachically Jewish. And that's an issue, but it's the truth. Sorry, guys, but that's where we're at. But now let's deal with the reality of things. What about everybody else? We have a growing community that's all around the world today of people who are coming out of their other religions, Christianity and others, and they don't know where to go. They can't become fully Jewish because they don't have an Orthodox community. They can't make Orthodox conversions, and they ask, where can we go? What are we? And the Jewish answer is, you are Bnei Noach. Well, that word Bnei Noach, Noahide, really technically means everybody. Everybody. The word Noahide, Bnei Noach, children of Noah, everybody, according to our tradition, are children of Noah. So we're all, in quote, Noahides. But there's a special category. That special category is one of the nations who has specifically come to a religious Jewish court and denounced idolatry, accepting upon themselves the universal path, the laws of the commandments of the non-Jew, with whatever additions that they so choose to embrace for themselves, which could include full ritual observance of the Sabbath, full ritual observance of kosher laws, full ritual observance of family purity laws. These are not obligations, but individuals who wish to embrace them may indeed do so. That being said, that being the halacha, this is what we call the biblical equivalent of, and it really isn't equivalent of, a Ger Toshav, a resident alien. So there are those individuals today, for example, myself, I could easily get two of my peer rabbis. And anyone who's non-Jewish who wants to declare themselves to be at this level of a Ger Toshav, we get together three people, we put together like a little formula to say, and say, behold, I'm renouncing idolatries and stuff like this, and I'm taking upon myself the commandments I know God wants from me, and any and all additions that you may or may not want, etc. It's that simple. That's what you can do. It is not obligatory for a non-Jew to convert to Judaism. You don't get closer to God by becoming a Jew. Remember, like I said way back when, this whole myth of this, in quote, Jewish soul? Let me be very blunt. Like I said about the polemics earlier, you do have Jewish racism. Christian racism against Jews, Islamic racism against Jews. Go look on the internet. It's all over the place. Look at what the church fathers said about Jews. Are you surprised then that some of the Talmudic rabbis didn't have nice things to say in return? You read Martin Luther and the nasty things he said, right? They were all embraced by the Nazis. Look at what some of the modern things that are said in the Arab world against Jews. The source of those things aren't from the Quran. The source of that isn't from Hadith. The source of that's from the Nazis. And most everyday ranking, Arab, they don't know this. And it's such a crime. Because Islam, as a culture, at one time, was one of the greatest things in the world. The golden age of old Baghdad, when the great academies were in Babylon and all the rest. Right? They're the ones who saved what we know today as Western civilization when Europe fell. Yeah, the good old days of Islam. Now, there are things that are said in the Quran that we're going to agree and disagree, whatever. That's not the point. But it's wrong, in my opinion, that we should be prejudiced against members of the Muslim faith simply because they're Muslim. And for a Jew, a rabbi, to say that, especially in light of what's going on with Israel and the Arabs there today, it's important for us to say. We must never have room in our hearts and our deeds for hatred and prejudice. No, no, no. That's a thou shalt not. We don't like what people do. And if sometimes we have to respond, God forbid, with violence against violence, well, what can I say? War is war. But now, let's talk about peace. Like I said, you have millions of people around the world who want to learn about Judaism, who can't become Jews. What do we do? Well, all those books are readily available. 100 or so years ago, Rabbi Yosef Chaim, the famous Ben Ish HaBaghdad, Baghdad, wrote, it's forbidden, he said, to teach or translate Kabbalah into a foreign language. Because if translated, people would read it and they'll completely misunderstand it. And that would become what we call a desecration of God's name, a Chilul Hashem. You want to know something? Ben Ish knew what he was talking about. Oh, he was so true. He was so correct. Whenever you take something and translate it, you better understand what you're dealing with or you're going to misunderstand it. Our rabbis knew this lesson from 300 years before the Common Era, when the Septuagint was translated, or the Torah was translated to Greek to become the Septuagint. Right? We have famous stories about that. You go Google them. Don't get into it right now. We've had a long history of people coming and reading our literature out of context and spiraling it off into crazy directions. That is one of the critiques that we have against Christianity. Look at how they come to our Jewish scriptures. And they see hundreds and hundreds of messianic prophecies from verses that have nothing to do with anything messianic at all. They say it does, and if they say it and they're right, of course they're right, because they say they're right, well, there you go. And we Jews, we're dumb and blind, we don't see anything. What am I going to say? This is the problem. So, this is where we are at today. Because when you go to any of the Hebrew bookstores, you go on Amazon.com, you go onto any of the Jewish bookstores online, and you have everybody, Jewish, non-Jewish, every religion under the sun, they're buying our English Talmud, our English Zohar, our English books of every which way, and they're reading them and they're learning them, and unfortunately drawing wrong conclusions because you don't have rabbis willing, able, and ready to teach them. Because many of my peers still hold by that old prejudice myth that the Gentile is less than the Jew and not worthy of our attention. That's the same way that the Christian would think against the Jew, the Muslim would think against the Christian. In the olden days, that separation was good and healthy. But we're in different times now. We have an obligation and a responsibility, like good old Isaiah said, to be a light to the nations. And all of these Noahides, as we call them, who are out there reading our material, coming to the KosherTorah School, and by all means, you're welcome. Go to every other rabbi online. Go to every other Jewish book online. They read this, they see that. And because they don't have a rabbi there, an authoritative, orthodox rabbi to tell them what this means and what that means to teach, all kinds of confusion arises. This, in my opinion, is the greatest Chilul Hashem. So in all due respect to Rabbi Yosef Chaim, Rabbi, they didn't listen to you. And all of the Kabbalah is already in English. All of the deep, deep books that no one was supposed to see other than a few select people here and there, translated in 10 different languages. When I was in France, they had the Pardes Ribbonim, Moshe Cordovero's book, completely translated into French. I was stunned when I saw the things that were translated in French that aren't even translated into English. And again, people are reading this. They don't just print one copy for one guy. It's out there. They print 1,000, 2,000. People are buying these and they're reading them. We have an obligation to teach. A responsibility to teach. A responsibility to educate. So for those of you who want to take the step to be what we call a Ger Toshav, you contact me. We'll make arrangements to have Bet Din set up so that people can take those proclamations. And what and how they wish to observe, we'll work with them. I am so convinced that this needs to be done today for a Kiddush Hashem, for the sake of the unity of Hashem and the Shekhinah, the Shem Yihud Kudsha Brikh Shechinteh. We say we want to bring Mashiach. We say we want to shine the light. Well, you want to know something? We got to do something. Can't just sit back, twiddle your thumbs with the racism and say, oh, you guys stay over there. We'll stay over here, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't work like that. You're completely missing the boat. You're completely missing the point. Most rabbis that I know have non-Jewish students. And confidentially, revealed to the world, almost all my peers will acknowledge many of their non-Jewish students, probably some of their best. Remember, Tana Deve Eliyahu, Eliyahu Rabbah, chapter 9, Eliyahu Navi himself says, whether it be a man or a woman, Jew or Gentile, free or slave, everyone can receive Ruach HaKodesh, depending on what they do. I'll share with you, it's something else even more profound. Maybe you've heard of Rabbi Aaron Soloveitchik. He was the old rabbi, the Brikh Yeshiva, took over as a Rosh Yeshiva of Yeshiva University after Rabbi Yosef Dov Ber, what was the rabbi? I forgot his name already. The original Rabbi Soloveitchik, his brother passed. Well, he writes in his commentary to Rambam, Maimonides, something very profound. In the laws of the Yesodei Torah, the foundations of the Torah, which is a course available on our KosherTorah website, and you should be taking it if you haven't already. He says, in the laws of prophecy, a prophet needs to be tested by the court, by the Sanhedrin. What would happen if we had a non-Jew who became a prophet, tested by the court and validated to be an authentic prophet of Hashem? Remember, we're not prophecy today, so this is pretty radical. If that non-Jew, who by definition most likely would have been a Ger Toshav, would receive through, like Tana Deve Eliyahu says, through Ruach HaKodesh, etc., Rav Soloveitchik said the nation of Israel, Jews, would be as obligated to follow the words of that non-Jewish prophet, tested, tried, and true by the Sanhedrin as he is, as any Jewish prophet. That's a profound statement for you. So for those of you who say, oh yeah, the Gentile is not as good as us. Yeah, he could be a prophet and you'd have to listen to him, whether you like it or not. We rabbis, my peers, listen to me. We have an obligation. And I know some of my peers, I know you're listening to me now. You know as well as I do, what I'm saying here is Torah Emet. And those of you, my peers, who are listening to me now, you're doing what I'm doing. We're reaching out to anyone everywhere who wants to learn, and we're teaching the truth. We're shining the light. We're doing what Isaiah taught us to do, to be a light to the nations. And that's exactly what we need more of. And that is why I've decided, probably starting a week from this Wednesday, what is that, 10 days from now, whatever it is, I want to do a weekly class called Judaism for Gentiles. I want to expose you to some of the great and profound teachings of our Torah from the likes of Rabbi Ben Amozeg in his book, Israel and Humanity. I have a course on that already. For those of you who want it, I'll make it available to you. Profound, deep stuff. When you have questions, if you're non-Jewish, we have a lot of you who are not Jewish, who are our students here. A, I thank you for your support. B, I'm honored and proud to have you. I don't care who you are. I don't care what your religion is. I don't care what your sexual orientation or your color or your this way. Don't give me any of this nonsense. If you sincerely want to study Torah, you're welcome here. You want to sit and fight and argue and debate with me? I have no time and patience. But if you want to learn the prophetic path of how to experience and do the rituals and the practices, here's your place. Everyone is always welcome. No, you might not be Jewish. If you want to be accepted as a Jew, then you go through an Orthodox conversion. And if you don't, then it's fine with me. It should be fine with you. Be who you are. Be what you are. If you feel the passion and the desire to become Jewish and you want to go through an Orthodox conversion, by all means. I do not perform conversions. I do not. For that, you have to go through one of the recognized Orthodox courts in the country of where you're located. All right? You can Google that online and you can find that. For a Ger Toshav bet din, I'd be more than honored to put that together for anyone who wants it. All right? We can even do it online. It's not a big deal. But Torah has to be taught properly. Judaism has to be taught properly. This is our time. This is our opportunity. This is, in my opinion, our responsibility to teach. Judaism for Gentiles. You've always heard of Jews for Yashki, right? We're going to go the other way around now. Judaism for Gentiles. We're going to teach you what we have to offer. The great wisdom of our sages throughout the centuries. Come, learn, see for yourselves the great wisdom that has been contained in the vessels of Judaism for thousands of years. And then, as you experience and are exposed to this, don't be surprised if you feel the passion and the desire to bond with Jews, Judaism, and Torah. Maybe you're one of those lost tribes. Who knows? Welcome, everyone. Welcome to our kosher Torah, because that is what it's all about. Alrighty, that's pretty much it. We kind of like ran out of time. I didn't see many comments. If anybody has any questions, now's the time. See, I got my good old reading glasses on so I can actually read your comments here as we go. If you have anything to ask, then please ask now. If you want comments, my email is real simple. My name, Ariel, Tzadok, Ariel, Tzadok @gmail.com. Check us out. Go to my course page. You will see what I have to offer you. You'll see how different it is from others. You check it out and you see for yourself if it's not worth your time, your effort, and of course your money. Remember, we're a school. We're here for you because you guys are here for me. All right, no comments. Cool and groovy. It means I either put everybody to sleep. I can do that. I hope everybody's awake. But all righty, we'll just conclude on that note. And God be willing, like I said, a week from Wednesday, Judaism for Gentiles, the course. I expect to see you. Someone's asking here, if we are all Noah's kids, how come not everyone is Jewish? Because we're all not the kids of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, which is the definition today of what it is to be Jewish. All right? Noah's kids, yeah. Jacob's kids, no. Oh, well, all in the family. All righty, guys. Ha, ha, ha. We'll all see you soon. God's blessings. All right? KosherTorah.com is available. Everything I have is there for you. Did I see the comment by Eric? No, Elisheva, I did not. I'm sorry. I guess it's going to have to wait till next time. All righty, guys. We'll see you then. Kol Tuv. Shalom.